Hello, so this is GavsWeatherVids and Quantum doing your extended weather forecast for the week. It's probably going to be about half an hour. If you want to ask questions about this forecast, then we would prefer to use the YouTube system because it has a character limit, so we'll only really be taking short questions. But longer comments and long questions could be left on GavsWeatherVids, and then they could be answered perhaps after the broadcast. So perhaps we'll start with the GFS. I haven't seen the GFS yet, actually. Gav's already seen it. So, okay. So basically, we have the same situation, the status quo, with this little feature coming down tonight. What do you think about this, Gav? What do you think this little feature is going to do?
Hi Quantum, and hello to everybody tuning in at GavsWeatherVids and at YouTube to our first ever live broadcast. I think it could give some snow to the eastern side of the country. I'd be looking at perhaps parts of Lincolnshire, maybe going down in towards East Anglia. It's such a marginal situation as it has been throughout this cold northerly spell so far, really. But I think there'll be some snow in there, maybe Yorkshire, parts of Lincolnshire, perhaps Prone. I don't think it'll get any further inland than that. And of course, towards the coast, likely to be rain and sleet. But yeah, it's another little interesting feature that these little features keep cropping up throughout this spell. Yeah, I think we'll get a little bit of snow somewhere around Lincolnshire, would be my guess.
So I guess we could just have a quick look at the WRF because that's for the short term, since I guess a lot of people are going to be interested in this feature tonight. So the WRF is basically it's a more advanced model. It uses the GFS data to initialize it.
It's a great model. I've only just started using it recently, but it is.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it really until Boxing Day. No, the Boxing Day snow event. That was the first time I used it really for that little snow event, and it's an excellent little model. I do rate this one very highly.
I seem to remember that actually during the Boxing Day snow event, the WRF was one of the better models. Even
yeah, it was very good. Yeah, very good with its prediction.
Yeah. I seem to remember the Euro 4 had it a little bit too far south, and it was actually Sheffield that was worst hit by the Boxing Day snow.
That's right. Euro 4. It's better than it was NAE, wasn't it? Before Euro.
Yeah.
It's
they
better.
call it Euro 4 now, though, don't they?
Yeah. It's better than its earlier sort of cousin, but it's not perfect by any means.
Okay. Well. Anyway, let's see how this one turns out. I mean, we've actually. I'm looking at the precipitation radar now, and it is snowing in Scotland currently, and there's some sleety mixture in East Anglia at the moment, which is.
That's right. That's from earlier today, but the snow in Scotland obviously is as the cold air's being back in from the north.
Yeah, and actually the uppers are quite high, really, aren't they? You wouldn't usually expect snow, but I'm guessing that the reason that they are turning to snow is because the cold air mass has been in place for quite a while, and when the winds move over the land, they have a chance to cool down.
That's right, yeah. And of course, the air is going to be turning colder anyway from the north over the next few hours, so that will turn things increasingly to snow in the north.
Yeah, and it's already completely snow in Scotland, so. But anyway, as we go through here, we can see. This system is. I think if I understand this right, this system is basically just an occluded front that's coming towards the UK.
Yeah, just one of those little systems that come through on these sort of unstable northerly flows.
It doesn't. It seems to be fairly fragmented anyway. I think it's always difficult to tell with these because people want to know how much snow is going to be in their area. But I reckon some places will get a covering out of this. I think quite a substantial covering, maybe 5 centimeters. But other places will just get nothing at all.
Yeah, it's another one of those, isn't it? But we're just having one after another. But it's causing a headache with this particular cold spell.
But it really. In Yorkshire, it seems to really hang on.
Yorkshire, Lincolnshire, yeah, that's.
And maybe the northeast of England as well. But I'm a little bit sceptical about the northeast of England, only because if we look at the slip, this is basically the 500 millibar heights and the surface pressure, so you can basically tell which direction the wind's coming from. But I'm a little bit sceptical about the northeast of England because the winds are coming off the sea somewhat. So at least coastal areas might struggle to see snow because the winds are coming directly off the sea in fairly marginal conditions.
Yes, I agree. It's marginal, and on the coast, it's never favoured. Although I think some coastal areas did get some snow this morning across the Lincolnshire coast, Yorkshire coast. I think there was reports that some places got snow, but of course, it's always more inland, especially in these marginal, headache-inducing, as I call it, these marginal situations.
Do you want to have a quick look at the SKU diagrams because they might be quite interesting?
Sure, yeah.
I only know where to get them from on Weather Online for the GFS, so I'm not sure if they do them for the WRF.
I love Weather Online.
Yeah, it's one I use a lot because
of site.
Oh, it's not behaving well at the moment. It's just going a bit slow. But it only has it for the GFS, which is a shame. Okay, here we go. So, bear with it. It's being a little bit slow. Right. So let's say Newcastle, because I guess Newcastle is quite close to the sort of thing that's going on. So this is the 12Z, of course. Should we say midnight?
Okay.
Go look at the sounding. I mean, I would call that a marginal sounding. I mean, the dew points are well below zero all the way through. But there's about, how many millibars would you say that was? Maybe about 50 millibars worth of warm air there. I think that will struggle to turn to snow, actually. I think that's marginal. It could go either way.
It could do, yeah.
But, I mean, notice that the winds are light at the surface, so...
And that's the two cooling you could come into play.
Well, of course, it's more likely to come into play when the dew points and the temperatures are spaced out. I mean, if these two were together, then I wouldn't expect there to be any evaporative cooling. But I think it's a possibility in some heavy precip. But I mean, that isn't ideal. I'll be honest. I don't like that.
The dew point is just so, as it is so often with this cold spell on the coast. Anyway, it's a little bit easier to do it inland, but close to the coast, the dew point is just so marginal. That again, it's just that wintry mix. It was a proper wintry mix this morning. It's I either like to be raining or snowing. I can't be doing sort of sleety, sort of icy type conditions. That icy rain, it's nasty, and I think places like Newcastle probably will be at risk of that sort of icy rain. But it could turn to snow, of course, in the heavier stuff.
Well, I mean, I was travelling through Yorkshire this morning, and the weather was awful. There was snow on the ground. I mean, it was quite odd because there was snow on the ground, but it was raining, and it was proper freezing rain. So it was really quite. I haven't really had that much experience with freezing rain actually, but there was some freezing rain this morning.
Freezing rain is a very unusual weather phenomenon, isn't it? I remember a great freezing rain event in January 1996, around the 25th of January, and it created this amazing glaze across all surfaces. It was very, very, very bizarre, really. It was like glass covering everything. It's lethal to walk on, though. Everybody's slipping over loads of broken bones and things. But if you're indoors and you're just looking out at it, freezing rain looks absolutely astonishing, really. It's very unusual to see proper sort of sheet ice covering all surfaces. But I remember that one. Well, that's the only one I can remember really in my lifetime. There's probably been other little icy events, of course, but for a real sort of freezing rain sheet ice event, that one at the end of January 1996 is the only one that really sticks out in my memory.
It might be worth having a look at that chart in due course. I mean, I remember about 3 or 4 events, but I guess the ones I'm remembering are rather less significant than the one that you've just mentioned.
Yeah, probably.
Of course, in the US, freezing rain events are common, but that's because of the sort of continental air mass. So you get
that's right. Yeah. The thing with
cold air at the surface and then warm layers up. But
the thing with 1996 was that it was a continental flow. There's an area of low pressure in the channel, but the upper air temperatures were a little bit above 0 degrees. The 850 HPA temperatures a little bit above 0 degrees. So that's why it fell as freezing rain and not snow. Very close to a big snow event. Of course, later on, a few days later, we did get quite a lot of snow on the easterly winds. But that was just a very unusual combination of circumstances that produced that ice event in January 1996.
Was it a warm front event? Because most freezing rains are on warm fronts.
I think it was an occlusion. I
Okay.
can't remember the frontal system. There may have been a warm front involved. Then could have been. It was either a warm front or an occlusion, sitting somewhere to the south. There was an area of low pressure close to the channel.
Okay. I mean, I guess it could have been a warm occlusion.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, I really consider warm fronts and warm occluded fronts to be. I mean, in terms of the precipitation they give, they're very similar.
Yeah, they can be. Yeah. It often depends. Whether you've got a cold air mass ahead of the occlusion, or whether you've got cold on both sides of the occlusion. I think as well that can make a big difference.
I know, but I mean, the thing is, though, realistically, even with an occlusion, I guess the main difference is with an occlusion you can get snow all the way through rather than a sort of snow to rain event. But even with an occlusion, the air on the back edge sort of stuff really tends to be less interesting. I mean, if it's a polar maritime air mass on the back and a continental air mass on the front, once you get to the back, it's just basically the sort of zonal type rubbish that we're used to. So I mean, even on an occluded front, I don't like it if it actually goes all the way through.
No, right. That's right. I agree. Yeah.
I'm just going to see if it actually gets any better for Newcastle. Not really, does it?
No, not greatly.
3 degrees, dew point of 0. It's marginal. It depends. I guess it'll depend on how heavy the precipitation is.
That's right.
Do we try for somewhere else? Where else? Well, there's nowhere else on the east coast here. I guess Norwich. Norwich might get some. Unlikely, but that's terrible. That's awful. Bloody hell! That's a rain sounding. Oh, that's no. Maybe we should make it clear to viewers that when we say awful, I guess we're both snow fans. I mean, we like
That's
snow.
That's right. Yeah. Well, isn't everybody? Everybody likes a bit of snow, don't they? As long as they're not going to go anywhere in it.
Yeah. I'm really surprised at that. I thought we may try somewhere a little bit further west. I don't think Manchester is really in the firing line, but okay, there we go. That's a snow sounding. It's just a pity that there's less likely to be some precipitation there.
Yeah, that's always the problem in this country. If you've got good conditions for snow in terms of the temperature and the air soundings, very often there won't be precipitation. If you've got precipitation, very often the air soundings and the temperature and everything else won't come together. It just seems to be so hard to bring snow together in this country, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But then, of course, when you get months like December 2010, which is snow all the way, that just makes you realise how unique those months are, really, doesn't it? But when you just get one snow event after another snow event after another snow event, it makes you realise how unusual, really, those months are. Because generally, the situation in this country is that it's difficult to bring everything together.
Yeah, I mean, of course, in 2010 we had a northeasterly, didn't we? So
that's right, and we have proper blocking. It always makes a difference if you've got proper blocking, that locked in block cold conditions over Greenland and northern Scandinavia. If you can get that, then more often than not you'll really be able to tap into the proper depths of cold from the North Pole.
I mean, at one point I was hoping that would occur because there was some unusually cold air around Svalbard, but
it looked possible, didn't it? For a few days, it looked possible that this could really be a proper one, but we just didn't get the blocking in place.
Again, maybe we should point out that we haven't actually seen the ECM yet, so we'll be looking at that. We'll be looking at the ECM later.
No, I'm not checking out.
And if it turns out there's a roaring easterly on the ECM, I mean, I bet people will be shouting at us right now.
Probably, yeah. I haven't seen it.
Well. So I guess the story for this then is that it's marginal, and if the wind's coming off the sea, it's more likely to be rain. Whereas if you can get a little bit inland, it's probably going to be snow.
Probably, yeah. And of precipitation, the heaviness of the precipitation will make a difference as well.
Yeah, although I don't like the fact that the winds seem to be fairly strong. I mean, I know they weren't on that sounding, but the WRF seems to think that the winds are going to be quite strong.
It has got up, hasn't it, the wind? I was out about an hour ago, and that wind is getting going. So
I think places like Darlington could. I mean, I reckon somewhere like Darlington could do well out of this. Actually, I think Darlington could wake up to a snow to a cover because it's a little bit inland. It's sort of right in the heaviest sort of area of precipitation.
yeah,
And the winds aren't coming directly off the sea. So I mean, it might be worth looking at the temperatures because if the temperatures are fairly low already, then since the snow is coming during the night, we should probably take that into account because the surfaces will be a little bit colder. And I think Darlington already has a bit of snow cover, doesn't it? So that can't
I
hurt.
don't know, but it could well do at the eastern side and the southeast. Yeah, I've seen a little bit today, earlier today. So yeah, that's a possibility. Maybe somewhere like Cambridge as well.
Oh, we haven't checked the soundings for Cambridge, have we? That's maybe we should do that.
Like Cambridge could be okay.
Yeah, that's pretty good actually. I mean, that's a depth. That's only a depth of about 30 millibars, so that's pretty much. I mean, it's wet. Well, having said that, the dew point's well below zero, so I mean that could be quite. I mean, that's definitely snow anyway. It's a snow event.
If they can get the precipitation through, somewhere like Cambridge, something like that could be okay. Maybe Peterborough, somewhere like that, between East Anglia and the East Midlands, that could be the place to be later on tonight.
Just checking London just as a matter. I mean, actually, look, that's pretty good as well, isn't it? Even for London.
Yeah, that's okay, but it's going to be whether that precipitation gets down there. It looks like it does. It looks like it does, doesn't it? It fizzles a little bit, I think, as it gets down to the far southeast, but it could be okay.
I mean, might be worth just having a quick look at the Bracknell charts. I'm wondering what sort of. I mean, I think it's just an occluded front, but maybe the Meteorologist will have a better idea what sort of feature this actually is. Oh, Bracknell, yeah, here we go. Okay, so it's a really messy type thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's as we've had through this cold spell, these little systems coming down from the north, containing probably some polar air, but also containing milder stuff as well. And yeah, it's what we've had throughout the cold spell. What we're probably going to carry on with. We've got another one coming down. It goes to the west on late Monday and Tuesday. That was more in the west. It could affect Scotland, Northern Ireland. That's it, I think, isn't it? It could affect Scotland and Northern Ireland. That one a little bit more, but it's the same sort of thing. A little bit of some polar air mixed in.
I mean, to be honest, these systems are rather pathetic. I mean, there's no. I can't really tell from looking at them what exactly the front is supposed to be dividing. I mean, there's no. I mean, there's no ridiculously cold air coming behind any of these.
That's right. It's dividing quite cold air from quite cold air.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe the southeast could get away with some snow. I mean, even in London, then. I think the story is basically that if you're the further south and east you are, the further south and west you are, the more likely it's going to be cold enough for snow.
That's
but
right.
The further east and north,
too far west, or else you're not going to get any precipitation coming through probably.
So what we say is something like maybe you've got to be further east. You've got to be at least east of Southampton, at least, probably quite a bit more east than that, and maybe south of somewhere like Newcastle, and then maybe a few miles away from the coast as well.
That's right. Yeah, that sounds about right.
My bets are maybe on Darlington, Cambridge, even I mean, the Chilterns. I guess we'll get some as well. Those sorts.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Hull. I mean, I know Hull's quite close, but the wind is coming from the north, so I guess it's still quite away from the northern coast, isn't it? Hull.
Yeah. It's always difficult there. Places like Hull, Grimsby, it's always a little bit difficult, but they might get some tonight. Yeah, it's a possibility.
Okay.
One of those nights for just keeping an eye on the lamppost, famous lamppost watching. Keep an eye on it and see what happens. Nothing beats really looking out the window and seeing what's going on. We have all these wonderful models and radar pictures and everything else, but sometimes nothing can quite. You never get a totally 100% definitive answer other than by looking out the window to see what's actually falling.
Yeah, I mean, even the radar can be a bit off sometimes.
That can be, yeah, especially if it's evaporating. I get lots of people asking me on Twitter and Facebook and sometimes on the phone, they're asking me why it appears that it should be snowing over them on the radar picture, but nothing's happening because it's evaporating before it gets to the ground.
There's also a phenomenon where if you're close to a rain, if you're somewhere in between a rain and a snow event, the radar soundings tend to be, for some reason, they tend to be showing really quite strong. I mean, I know the meteorologist tries to remove some of these, but I don't think they managed to get rid of them entirely. But
no, I know. I've noticed with the recent events, sometimes on these rain to snow radars, that it'll suggest it's raining where it's snowing, where you know it's snowing, and sometimes it'll say it's snowing where it might be raining. So yeah, they're not perfect.
I mean, if we want to look at precipitate radars, I've actually got one from rain today. I'll try and show it now just briefly, and then maybe we should take some questions since we've been talking for quite a while. But I'll try and show this precipitation type radar sounding that I took. Hang on, where is? Here we go. Yeah, I'm not going to share loads of these because they are premium. But this is the precipitation type from rain today. And rain today is, I reckon, one of the best, because I think most precipitation types are based on observations and maybe the GFS model. I don't know, but this one seems to be one of the most accurate. Certainly, every time it said snow, there's been snow.
Oh right, I don't get this one. It looks good.
Yeah, so obviously blue is rain, yellow is hail, pink is snow, and grey is somewhere ambiguous, I guess. So it's showing, yeah. So I mean, it's showing something wintry for Ipswich at the moment, and of course Aberdeen maybe as well, and then in the northwest of Scotland, of course, it stopped snowing in the northwest of Scotland. It's been snowing most days there, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. That wintry mix down there over the southeast, that is the wintry mix that came through this morning across many parts of the country. Gave some snow places in Lincolnshire, but it was a wintry mix for most places.
Okay. Shall we take some questions now, maybe?
Yeah, far away.
Then I guess we've done a short range. If we want to extend out, look, I'll just better get them up. Yeah. Sorry, I should have had these up already, but I don't. Let's see what people have been saying. This is the YouTube thing is not exactly helpful. There's no quick link to it, so just bear with me a second. Actually, I'll go to GavsWeatherVids because I know the video's embedded on there, isn't it? It's probably the quickest way to get to it.
Yeah, I embedded the video through to GavsWeatherVids a few days ago.
Okay, here we go. I better turn. I've got an ad blocker. It's blocking everything. It's not being that helpful. Right, here we go. I'm getting it now. I'm close. Okay, I've got it. Let's see. There's a lot of comments. I'm just seeing if there's any questions. Okay, someone's asking a question here. Gavin, question for you. Some forecasters are predicting easterlies by the end of the week. Do you agree?
Easterlies probably. I haven't looked at the ECMWF yet with that caveat. So if that's showing a big easterly, don't shout at me. Easterlies probably sort of Wednesday, Thursday. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a few snow streams possibly around East Anglia and southeastern England. Those sort of areas. Yeah, easterly is Wednesday, Thursday, probably get cut off by the high pressure sinking down over us, so a really cold, frosty spell, but the easterly wind gets cut off probably Friday into the weekend. But that's without seeing tonight's ECMWF.
Okay, yeah. Maybe we could maybe take questions about this. I mean, no one seems to be asking questions about the short term. Maybe because no one's in the places that are likely to be affected.
That's right. It's such a defined area that could get the snow tonight, but it's going to limit the people that could potentially see it, of course.
The Met Office has got a warning that covers most of eastern England, and I think Scotland as well, for the snow tonight.
That's right.
I mean, if I'm honest, it seems a little bit maybe overdone, but of course the Met would have to prepare for the worst case scenario.
They have a difficult job, don't they, the UK Met, because if a surprise snowfall turns up, then they get it in the neck from everybody. Everybody will wade in, saying, "Why didn't you forecast this for this area?" So I think they go on the side of probably being a bit over the top a little bit, but it's understandable because of the position that they're in. It's better to warn and not for it for it to not come off really, than not to put any warnings out, and nothing happens. Not put any warnings out and something dramatic happens, you know. So they always go a little bit on the side of something dramatic happening, and people wonder why that's the case. But I can understand it from their position.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, I mean, I guess this is the problem with amateur forecasting because of course, if people take too much stock of those, then it's the responsibility of people making decisions on it, and I guess that there are a couple of characters, let's call them, that tend to. I guess we all know who I'm referring to, but
that's right. They're the amateur, the sort of small forecasting side of weather, and the amateur forecasting side of weather is an important part of meteorology, of weather. But there are always going to be people that are just in it, probably to make money, probably to get people onto their websites, whatever. And they sort of make it bad for everybody else, don't they? So
yeah, and people blame the Metalverse.
It's best to keep things as real as you possibly can. I always find.
Okay, so people are asking quite frantically about snow events on Monday and Tuesday, so maybe we should move on to those.
Right.
So I guess we'll start with the GFS as usual. I always start with the GFS. I looked at the GME. I saw that one was quite good.
I don't look at the GME all that often, actually. I always forget about that one. My main two are the GFS and the ECM.
Do you sort of have a hierarchy? I mean, I guess this is a little bit unscientific, but I mean, for me, the ECM, I guess, is the best one. I think that's understood, and then the GFS and the UKMO somewhere second, and then the lesser models.
That's about where I place them. The Canadian, the GEM, is better. It's not as good as the ECM and the GFS, but it's better than it was. It had an upgrade a couple of years ago.
I mean, is it just me, or does the GEM tend to massively overdo the sort of just trough disruption type things? I mean, if there's going to be an easterly, the GEM is always first, apart from when the JMA was first yesterday.
It can do. It can go a bit over the top, and I think it does favour the colder option more often than particularly the ECM and the GFS. But as I say, it's better than it was. It's not. I always take it on board what it's saying, whereas 2 or 3 years ago I would have pretty much dismissed it.
What do you think of the NAV gem? That's my favourite model. I don't really have any particular reason. I just love the NAV gem.
Does that come from NOGAT?
Yeah, it does. I was really sad when they got rid of the no gaps. I loved the no gaps.
Oh, it was great, wasn't it? With no gaps, it was always showing something different, outrageous, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Good for a laugh.
Okay, so let's do the GFS. I reckon this will be basically the same as the 6, so I'm not really expecting it to be any different. Maybe. I mean, the assembles were showing something perhaps a little bit better, but this feature on Monday, what do you think?
The main low pressure that's going down to Biscay, that doesn't look like it's going to do anything, I don't think. Maybe possibly the very far southwest of England and perhaps some southern west parts of Ireland. But I would suspect that is causing the next little trough that's coming through late Monday into Tuesday. That probably is responsible for taking some of the energy out of that, I would think. So that's the reason that the little trough on Monday, Tuesday probably isn't going to do that much, although it is going to possibly produce some quite heavy snow to Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland, perhaps on early Tuesday. but it's been trend. It's getting trended further and further west. So in the end, it might miss us altogether.
There's I guess there's Meteor still has a zoomed in version, so I think maybe we should look at that because there aren't that many isobots on this one. There we go. I guess this is we can have 850s as well, I suppose. 2 for the price of 1. Oh, okay, it's down here. My apologies. Right, okay, let's go. So that was the first one there. The one. Actually, this isn't slip. This is I think 850 heights. But the 850 wind directions are basically roughly the same as the ones at the surface, aren't they? But yeah, there's the first one. You think that one's
first of all, though, going to the south of Ireland.
And there's the second one. Oh, there's something of a warm sector on that, so it looks more potent than it does on the big map.
Yeah.
Of course, this isn't slip, so. But I think that does look like there's a warm sector on that, doesn't there? But it sort of stays well offshore, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's been trended further westwards as well.
I mean, from my experience on these wave type lows, you've really got to be sort of to the south of them to get or sort of level with them, level with the centre to get precipitation. If you're not south necessarily, but if you're away from the front, if you're in this case east of it, I think it doesn't. To me, that doesn't look that impressive. If I'm honest, I'm not impressed.
No. And then there could be another little system if we run through. There might be another little system coming through.
Oh yeah, that one looks better.
That one looks a bit more. Got a bit more about it.
Well, that's an occlusion, isn't it? An occluded front, yeah. It's quite quick though to come through. I mean,
it'll be a band of fairly heavy snow going through quite quickly, but perhaps giving a couple of centimetres as it comes through quite widely to Scotland and Northern Ireland, I would think. But that's as long as it doesn't get pushed off out to the western coast again, of course.
I mean, actually, that is quite impressive because there's the air on the north of that is fairly cold. So I mean, there's something quite impressive about that.
Yeah, that's a decent one. But unfortunately, when it gets to northern England, the precipitation just sort of fizzles out.
Have a quick look at the precipitation, I guess. There we go. How do you rate these precipitation charts?
They're better than they was, but again, just a rough guide. You can't take them too literally, especially as they're okay for sort of 24, 48 hours away, but after that, they're subject to chopping and changing a lot.
Yeah, you can see it here, I guess. And it's basically affecting really quite uninhabited areas. It just fizzles really. It'll be more impressive that.
When it comes down towards northern England, it just sort of dies a death.
I mean, actually, this precipitation thing has some quite significant snow for the first event. I mean, the one that I didn't really think much of. I guess that was probably because I was looking at heights rather than the slip. I guess you can see the fronts more clearly if you look at it. Oh. That looks more impressive, doesn't it?
Yeah, that looks okay.
I
wouldn't go overboard on it, but it could give quite a covering of snow.
Yeah.
So for that one, we're looking at northwest Scotland, southwest Scotland, Northern Ireland, possibly going down to the Republic of Ireland, some parts of northwestern England, but that's about it.
There's possibly some sort of weather front here as well. It doesn't. I mean, the facts chart was sort of hinting at it. It doesn't look particularly strong though. But I'm just saying that there is some sort of weather front that I think is going on somewhere around here.
I think the GFS is seeing that chance of precipitation pepping up a little bit on the eastern coast through Monday and into Tuesday. And then, of course, as that wind goes into the northeast, the east and the southeast will become more at risk of possibly getting snow showers coming through midweek And the chance, wouldn't say any more than that, but the chance of some snow streamers perhaps setting up midweek and then later in the week for parts of East Anglia, southeastern England.
Well, if we keep this going, you can see that we're in sort of Wednesday now, and the wind sort of becoming more easterly.
There we go.
When the wind becomes easterly, I think most places are at higher risk, apart from the west, of course. But I think easterly winds give the most widespread snow, really.
That's right. They should do. Quite a strong wind as well. That's going to be cold. That's going to be wrap up warm with that wind, because that's going to be a pretty raw, bitter wind coming in from the northeast. So it's quite a strong wind, that is.
And so I was talking to someone on the Weather Outlook about something, and one thing that I have observed, I'm not sure how true this is, but it's more of an observation than learning about it formally, but I have observed that when you get a situation like this, where you get the ridge coming in from the north, the point where the sort of ridge and these straight easterlies meet, are sort of like here. There tends to be a sort of line of snow showers here. I mean, it's sort of like a twilight area of snow, because of course when the ridge comes in, it kills off all shower activity.
That's right. I don't know about that, but it could be.
It's more from observation, but I think what I've tended to notice is that troughs or convergence zones like to form sort of here. I mean, you can see that it. I don't know, but unfortunately, of course, the GFS has the high pressure building from the north quite quickly, so that's going to kill off any.
Although it has delayed it somewhat on this latest update of the GFS. It is trending more with the update to delay sinking that high pressure down over us, which is quite interesting. Very often with these sort of stuff. I mean, at that point, that looks like we really are setting it up, doesn't it? Really are setting up a Scandinavian high, and it looks good at that point, around Wednesday, Thursday, and then the polar vortex just goes into overdrive to the north, and everything sinks down. But it's trending more, I think, with the updates to delay the sinking of that high pressure. So we've got to keep an eye on it. It's not a totally, probably, I haven't looked at the ensembles yet either, but it's probably not a totally done deal that high pressure will sink.
I mean, I've looked at loads of these patterns over the course of several years, and so you sort of get an idea about what things tend to do what. And when I looked at this, I mean, my immediate thought was that there was probably going to be some sort of retrogression to Greenland, but when you look at these, I mean, it's unbelievable actually when I first looked at this. But if you look at like you were saying, if you looked at the polar vortex on this, it's just insane what happens. I mean, look at that. Look at how strong that is. It's just ridiculous.
It's on something, isn't it? That polar vortex is on something there. that is a proper polar vortex. But I sort of had this idea with my winter forecast that I gave out at the very start of the winter, that it's going to be very much a winter where we would be swinging from cold solutions to milder solutions. So many factors are fighting against one another this winter. It's what made it so difficult to come up with a winter forecast. It went down to the wire, this year's winter forecast, as to quite what I was going to go for. I didn't really know fully until just a couple of days before I did it, because it's such a fighting winter where the air masses are just fighting each other so strongly, and that is a very, very strong polar vortex. So the high pressure actually, it sticks around for quite a long while. It does well, the high pressure, to sort of fight that onslaught off, actually.
Yeah, again, that's what I was thinking. I mean, it just seems if the polar vortex is a little bit weaker, then the most natural solution would be to get the retrogression or even to get a northerly with low pressure coming down and back over Scandinavia again.
Yeah, set the high pressure up somewhere around Iceland, and I'm not sure about getting it up to Greenland, but certainly if this polar vortex is just a little bit weaker, it's feasible that this high pressure could hold on around Iceland, particularly if it can get that ridge, or it tries to form around Wednesday, if they can get that ridge from Iceland to Scandinavia, it tries to do it desperately around Wednesday. It all looks very good on Wednesday, but it just doesn't quite happen. Yeah, but if it could, it'd be okay to. I wouldn't necessarily say lock us into it, but it would certainly extend things out a few more days, keep the cold going into the second week of February.
It is odd though that the models aren't trying to. I mean, that with the fact that we're actually getting upgrades rather than downgrades, I don't really remember a time when, as we've got close to the event, we've actually upgraded this sort of situation and the high actually goes north rather than continues to sink. Because
that's normally something you get in the colder, the proper colder winters. I remember seeing it sometimes through 09-10 and December 10, and there haven't really been that many winters before that, in the cold winters before that in the internet age, but it's something that goes with a colder winter that the models will try to kill off the cold weather quite quickly. And then you'll upgrade it and extend it. It happened a little bit through 12-13 as well. January, I don't know if you remember, but March 2013.
Yeah, I remember.
Very often we would try to break out of the cold pattern, and it kept getting extended out. And of course, eventually it ended up as like a month, 6 weeks of really quite cold weather. It went on even into April, didn't it, without properly thawing.
I remember March 2013. That was. I mean, I went on several trips to the Pennines, in I think even early April, and I've never seen such deep snow in my life. It was insane.
It was an amazing month, actually. There's an idea that we're not doing. I suppose it's because of last winter, really. It was a disaster last winter for, let's face it, for cold weather. But there's an idea that we're not doing very well for cold weather. Actually, we're doing very well. We have been doing very well for cold weather. We've had December was the coldest December since 1890, December 2010. Almost the coldest in the entire Central England temperature record. It got so close. If that cold spell in November and December 2010 started just 2 or 3 days later and ended 2 or 3 days later, that record in December 2010 would have fallen. It would have been the coldest December since records began in 1659 across Central England. And then you've got March 2013, which was also the coldest since 1962 UK-wide. It was the coldest since 1883, I think, in Central England. March 2013. So we're doing pretty good, really, for cold weather. But of course, last winter it was a total washout, and we didn't get any cold weather at all. And what's very interesting, the way we seem to be swinging, swinging really between sort of extreme weather patterns. It's living through quite an unusual time, I think, with the way we're going from extremes. But we have done quite well, really, for cold weather in the last few years.
But the thing is that when you say that December, if it had been slightly colder, December would have been the coldest December since records began. It would still only have had a CET of maybe. It would have been close to negative. Would it have been close to -1? It would have been about -1, wouldn't it?
I think the central temperature for December 2010 came in at somebody will probably correct me because I'm almost certainly getting this wrong, but it was somewhere around -0.65 or 6, and the record is something like -0.8, something like that. So it's very, very close to the record, but of course nowhere near as cold as it can potentially be in January and February.
That's the point. That's the point I was about to make, because
if that pattern had set in for January.
I've seen -3 months on the CET series. I wasn't even aware they were. I can't really imagine what a -3 month would be like.
Yeah, -3.0, -3.2. That would be some cold weather, and of course January, February always has the potential to be colder than December. I think it was Antonio that asked why February is, despite the fact that the sun is rapidly rising up into the hemisphere, and in theory is warming quickly in February, why it's nearly as cold as January. And of course, the reason is that there's a delay. It's like that the sun's getting stronger. There's a delay in warming, particularly the oceans. The oceans, the sea around the country tends to reach its coldest sort of March time, actually. So that's the reason why. And there's always a delay in warming the air temperature up from, and it's the same in summer, of course. There's a delay in cooling things down, even though the sun is on the equator virtually in September. It actually goes south of the equator late September. September is almost as warm as a summer month a lot of the time. And the reason, again, it just takes there's that delay, a few weeks, in the sun changing its position and the air and the seas particularly cooling down. So, yeah, January, February will always be colder, or most times they'll be colder.
But there aren't any -3 Februaries, and I don't think there are even any -2 Februaries. The best is already gone. I mean, I don't think you can get a February anywhere near as cold as you can get a January.
January would be the peak because it's in the heart of the winter, but I would suspect... What was February 47? That was quite negative.
That was about -1, wasn't it? Was it about negative?
Remember. I remember 1986. That was -1. That was a cold, that was a cold month. It wasn't very snowy either. That on.
Oh no, actually, that I think 1940. I think I've got that wrong. I think I might be confusing it with the whole winter. I think 47 was possibly the coldest February. At least the coldest of the 20th century, but possibly the coldest February ever. I think. Was it? I think it possibly is the coldest February ever. I might be wrong about that.
There'll be people shouting at us now because there's some people that live by all of this stuff.
Yeah, maybe we should move on to some of the other models. Which one do you want to start with? I haven't looked at any of these.
Let's take a look at the ECM.
Wait, you want to start with the big one? No.
Yeah, I'm hoping that doesn't have us in a strong easterly after what I've said about the high pressure sinking.
Well, people should put spoiler warnings on this if they're yelling out what's going to happen on the comments. Wundergarn actually has a version of the ECM where you can go 3 hour by 3 hour. But it's not really worth using it because it's not very user friendly. But it does have that. Anyway,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it does. It only goes up to 192 though. But
it would be useful for the ECM to be 12 in 12-hourly steps.
Of course, the ECM is like. Well, I mean, of course, the ECM is in 3 hour intervals. It's just that they don't release an awful lot of
right. Data. Yeah, that's what I mean. It would be useful if they would release 12-hourly steps. Sometimes it can make a big jump from a 24-hourly step, and it can be, when I'm doing my videos, it can be hard to explain why it shows one thing at, say, T120 and another thing at T140. It can make some big, it can be big changes in 24 hours.
Well, I'll send a link to everyone to the Wunderground site so that you can have the ability to do it in 3 hour steps.
It would be helpful if they'd released in 12 hours.
But it's not a very user friendly site though. That's the only problem. Anyway, 72 hours. What do you think?
Winds backing into the northeast. There's some trough again coming down from the north.
It seems to intensify though, doesn't it? Actually, it seems to intensify.
That one looks a bit more potent actually than the GFS has it.
It's more central as well, isn't it?
It can be very difficult with the ECM because there's so little information that you can get from it. I wish there's so much that we could see from the ECM. We can't get.
Do you want to try Wunderground so that we can see what happens between 48 and 72?
Can do.
Okay. I hope this won't crash my computer. How'd you get the Wonder Map? Oh, here we go. Here's Wonder Map. I really hope this won't crash my computer because it's so terribly user friendly. This is. It's awful. I really hate Google Maps.
It definitely looked more potent, though, I thought, on the E70UF than on the GFS, that little system coming down from the north.
Okay, there we go. Now we have it. Right. So well, we go. Let's go to 48 then, I guess. There we go. So the blue is the slip, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. So it's really hard to control. 60. So that's basically the same as the GFS at this stage, isn't it? There's no real difference there.
It looks very similar.
And the ECM have kindly put on this precipitation as well. Well, well, that really pepped up, didn't it? No, it seems to be taking the same track. I don't see any difference. Well, what? Is this the same road? I'm not convinced it is. Is it?
Can't see whether that would be the midnight or the midday.
There we go. So actually, this system is got nothing to do with the UK. So it was this low disappeared and this one reappeared. So it wasn't a case of a low going down south across the UK. So again, pretty disappointing though. And actually, this system has basically nothing on it really. I mean, pink is nothing really. So these things, you know, that's disappointing. Nothing really there to see. Anyway, 96. Is that it over there?
Looks like it probably would be.
Oh.
Let's run on a bit more. Oh, that's a little bit more interesting. Not great, but it's a little bit better.
Well, certainly for the southeast, I guess. Is this going to do what I think it might do?
Looks like it's sinking the high pressure.
I thought it was gonna. I thought that trough was gonna come south, and this one go to Greenland. It has done it in the past.
Just a mid-lat high.
Yeah. There's probably some slightly milder air coming in across that.
Yeah, probably around the top. Bit of muck around the top. So it's the same idea that we had that easterly Wednesday, Thursday, lasting to Friday in the south. And then we cut off the easterly, the high pressure topples down over us. Excuse me. It could be quite cold, or it could be very cold under that high pressure. But as we go through the weekend, we probably start to infiltrate milder muck over the top, particularly to Scotland and Northern Ireland. England and Wales could keep it very frosty right up to the end of next weekend.
But if this high was slightly further west, then look at what could be on offer. I mean,
again, yeah, that's right. It's so close, this one. And for a few days, it did look, didn't it, like it was going to be a very significant cold spell that it could be.
No, there's nothing really to see here, is there?
That polar vortex again around Greenland, it's just flattening everything off and pushing too much energy into the high pressure, so it gives it a really good go at forming that high pressure over Scandinavia, forming that ridge Wednesday, Thursday, but there's just so much energy barreling into it that he just can't do it.
No. That's such a shame, really. Shall we look at some of the others? I guess it's an anticlimax now, but
I think the GM is going to be very similar.
the JMA last night was a surprise. The JMA was very good. It had a full easterly last night. The JMA.
I rate the JMA longer range model quite highly. I don't. It's a strange situation with the JMA longer range model because that's pretty good in terms of a long range model. I mean, none of them are great, but for the longer range models, the JMA is quite good. But the shorter range model doesn't seem to really have improved, and the shorter range JMA is about where the GEM used to be sort of 2-3 years ago before it had its upgrade. They haven't really improved. It's very strange why the longer range JMA is better than the shorter range up to T192.
Yeah. I was going to hope that maybe the GMA would be right, but it doesn't seem like that then, does it? Well, anyway, so the GM.
I think this is going to go very similar.
No, it's doing what it usually does. It's doing what it usually does.
It gives it the best shot of all the models. I mean, that is a good easterly coming into the south there. Probably a bit overdone.
Minus 10 in southeast England, I reckon, on that. I reckon that's minus 10. I've gone the 850s.
850s, yeah, not surface temperatures. Not anybody starts panicking.
Can we expect? Oh no, I was close, minus 8. So for anyone that doesn't realise, these are not surface temperatures. These are temperatures.
Correct temperatures.
Yeah.
We have to make that distinction very important, because you can talk about temperatures being down to minus 10, minus 15 in the upper, and of course people will panic at those sort of temperatures. Although by the time you get down to minus 15 in the upper air temperatures, you're going to be well below freezing on the surface typically.
And there comes a point, sort of, maybe when you get, this isn't relevant for us of course, but there comes a point when you get to about minus 25, minus 30. At that sort of point, then the upper air temperatures and the lower air temperatures kind of swap, and the lower air temperatures are colder when you get below about minus 30. Of course, it never happens in the UK. I think the coldest it's ever got at the upper level in the UK, I think, was minus 19 in January 1987, 27.
Right.
Yeah, possibly.
87, yeah. Remember that very well. That was probably the coldest single spell since 1740. That was incredible. Didn't last all that long. It lasted about a week, the severest part of that freeze. But while it was on, that was a very, very, very cold spell.
Unfortunately, I never got to live through it, but oh well.
That's making me feel old now.
I'm sorry. Anyway,
I can remember December 81, and I was only, I would have been 4. I can remember December 81, little bit, snow on the ground on Christmas Day.
Yeah, 2010 for me was the biggest.
That was the biggest, yeah. Well, it was on a part. It was colder than December 81, and for the time of year, as we've explained, January will be colder. If that pattern had occurred in January, it would have been colder than the pattern that occurred in November, December 2010. But for the time of year, that was a pretty incredible. That was a pretty incredible month, December 2010.
Yes, indeed. But, yeah, it was late November as well, so it was pretty intense.
That's right. So the GEM goes very similar, although it's better with the easterly Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Eventually, it all ends up very similar with the high pressure down over the country. And it ends up as a mid-lat high. Could still be quite cold. I don't think we bring as much mild air around the top into the high pressure with that one. So the high pressure sort of centred over the country, and then drifts a little bit to the southeast. So that would be colder, cold extending out into the second week of February, albeit just from sort of high pressure sitting over the country, high pressure in situ.
But how is it so? I mean, I know obviously that the upper air in an inversion situation is much milder than the surface, but 8 degrees, that's insane. I mean, nearly 8 degrees.
Yeah, that's coming off. That's from the Atlantic, isn't it? It probably would warm up a little bit, you know, especially in the daytime. It'd still be frosty at night. It depends as well whether there'd be any freezing fog, of course, under the high pressure. Could get quite a bit of freezing fog. If that happens, then it can be very cold in the day, even with really quite warm upper air temperatures. Just depends. We don't get as much fog, of course, as we used to get.
Yeah, you're right. That stays cold. That's a massive inversion then, with a huge temperature gradient.
That's right. That's partly because we start off cold. The cold is already established, of course, from this week's weather. And it could partly be because there's freezing fog going on under the high pressure as well. As I say, we don't get as much fog as we used to. Not sure why that is, why there would be I mean, there's the Clean Air Act, of course, which clean the air up so we don't get smog, but I'm not sure why. Even under these mid-lat highs, we don't seem to get the fog that we used to get, say, 10, 15 years ago. I'm not sure why that is.
I was on a paper about this actually, and they looked at climate models and how fog was, I guess, was going to happen, the trends of fog in the future. And based on the climate change and global warming, they seem to think that fog in the summer would become more summer. Oh, bloody feedback. Fog in the summer will become. Oh, sorry for swearing that. I promise I wouldn't. Would become.
We'll let you off this once.
I'm surprised I've gone a whole hour without swearing once, which I never have done that on my own thing. But so yeah, the Met always seems to predict in their models. I think I've got this the right way around, but that summers have less fog and winters will have more. Other way around. Yeah. The echo is making me got rid of my thread. Anyway, I guess there's what models are there left? There's the Nav Gem, my favourite model.
This is a combination of no gaps and the GM, isn't it?
I don't know. I thought it was just an upgrade of the.
I'm not familiar with this one.
I don't know that much about it, which says a lot for someone that's apparently favourites it. But
again, it gives it a really good go at getting that ridge through to Scandinavia, doesn't it? But it all just sinks like a souffle. Although, again, it's so close, isn't it? And even they're going through to, what are we at, 180 hours, even there we're still in a bit of a northeasterly. That's a bit better. Again, but it's still that idea that the high pressure is just sort of sinking people under so much pressure by the PV that
there's some cold air, and there's some proper cold air in there actually.
Can't form that ridge. Yeah, there's more of an easterly with that, so we stay on the periphery of what's over Central Europe, but it's better. It's better.
Yeah.
If that was how it panned out, it would keep it very cold. Into the second week of February.
And probably actually quite snowy in the southeast.
Could be, yeah, again, with those snow showers coming in.
I think the southeast will be quite well off with this, but not very good for people in the north. So this model was the only one to actually do it, to completely do it. Yeah, it did it yesterday. I don't think it'll do it today, but it did manage it yesterday. It's not going to do it today, I can tell. Oh, is it? Is it? Oh.
There we go.
Oh no! It's no. Does that count? Does that count?
It's very close. It's very close.
That counts, doesn't it? Let's say that. That's close enough, isn't it? Look and see if there's actually cold air in that. I'm always worried when you start to see yellows very close to the UK on the 5 mil, 100 millibar height charts. Though I don't like it when I see yellows on there near the UK. No. Well, it's sort of I guess it's drawing in a bit of a southeasterly, isn't it? So it's.
Yeah, there's quite cold air very close to the far southeast. Quite interestingly, it looks like we get a bubble of warmer air going into Scandinavia. Quite cold air close to southeastern England.
I can't really tell where that's coming from. That warm air bubble.
Just forming within the ridge, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess it's because it's centered over the Atlantic, and there's some I guess it just warms up over time. Now that's disappointing because the JMA had a proper easterly feed yesterday.
I think the overall story is still the idea that we get the easterly with snow showers, East Anglia, South East England, Wednesday, Thursday, possibly lasting into Friday. Could set up some snow streamers in the southeast, and then the high pressure probably, but wouldn't necessarily say certainly, but probably sinks over the country over next weekend.
Oh, the UKMO is terrible as well. Look at this.
That wasn't great. The UKMO wasn't great. The high pressure sinks over the country next weekend, and it's frosty, possibly foggy. And then into the second week of February, we may keep high pressure in situ. If we do, it would stay pretty cold. We may introduce a westerly. I'm hoping that we I'm hoping we're going to have another go. Sometimes it can take the atmosphere a while to pull off these Easters, take a few goes at it. So I'm hoping we'll have another go getting the high pressure really in over Scandinavia.
But if at this stage we're talking first week of February now, we've only got basically 3 weeks left really.
But for my winter forecast, I'm hoping that we'll get another shot at it in around the middle of the month, maybe the 3rd week of the month. I'm hoping we'll have another go at it. And if we do, I'll have had a pretty successful winter forecast this year, which is unusual for me. I haven't got the greatest long-range forecasting record. So,
what did you get in the CET competition last year? I think, didn't you do quite well in it?
No, I didn't do the yearly one. I do the monthly one, don't I?
Yeah, that's the one I'm in. Yeah.
I do the monthly one. I had a disaster last year with those CETs, but I've done a bit better for January. But it's all just for fun anyway. We don't really mind that, do we?
No. I didn't do overly well either. Anyway, this is 144, and this one's the op and the one that we looked at on the GFS. I'm just looking to see if there are any good solutions here, because on the Sixer there are actually quite a few, so I was still quite hopeful.
We're on the ensemble of the GFS.
There we go.
That's a good one. That's a classic. That's a nice one. That's proper snow coming in from the east, isn't it? That would be. I would suspect daytime temperatures would be below freezing with that across England and Wales particularly. That's a real one.
Have a look at that. Oh, that's odd. No, actually, that's the wrong one. I think it's this one actually, isn't it? Or maybe not. Anyway, yeah. That.
How does the overall graph look tonight?
So.
There's been a split, hasn't there? About half the members have been going above average for the 2nd week of February. Half have been extending the cold out.
Just trying to remember where you get the graph from. I usually use NetWeather. What's the graph? It's in diagrams, isn't it? I do have a GCSE in French. I'm putting it to good use.
I just get Google to translate the page for me.
I didn't do very well on it. But...
I cheat.
There we go, London. Oh, it's got opened it in a new window. I can't show it.
Oh, that's a nuisance. Anyway, from how those looked, I would suspect there's still a split, and certainly there would be some.
There's a couple. There's still a few odd ones going towards -10.
There's still a few that pull it off, so it's still a possibility that the high pressure won't slip over the country, but it will stay to the north and form a ridge. It's a possibility, but still there. As long as there's one member going for it, sometimes even if there's just one member going for it, it can still be a sign that the possibility is there, and even if it doesn't happen immediately, a few days later, it can be something that pops back up again. So it's always interesting to keep an eye. It's important to keep an eye on those ensembles from the GF.
I was a little bit disheartened though, because the Sixhead actually showed quite a few of those. I mean, that only had one, but the Sixhead had a few. Although by 168, it looks like the op is. I mean, so then this one's the op, which was rather boring, but there are actually quite a few good ones here.
There's quite a few there, but are still there, but are still going for something interesting. That's a decent one. That would be probably bringing some longer snow into the southeast.
But I mean, even ones like this. I mean, this is that would probably be down the line. I reckon that would be quite a good one as well.
That could be okay. Big trough over Scandinavia.
It's a downgrade from the 6Z set. There were more on the 6Z and there were more on the 0Z. Oh, that one's quite good as well. There's quite a good one there. Oh, that one's great. Yeah, I like that one.
That one's a good one.
Yeah.
But the trend seems to be pretty evident, which is that the high pressure not to be able to pull it off on Wednesday and Thursday. It wants to create this big sort of blocking feature, but the PV is just so strong that it can't do it. So it seems like that is where we're going with high pressure to sink, but wouldn't totally say that that's how it's going to pan out.
Exactly. And of course, even if this does happen, it's still going to stay quite cold.
Will be cold under the high pressure, yeah.
I mean,
Well,
if you
unless we
have a look
start
at
to
these
trend.
winds, none of these actually go that mild. I mean, I can't really find any. I mean, this is 240 now, and I'm looking at 240, and I'm looking for mild ones. I can't see any mild ones. I'm just looking. Oh, there's this one. This one's quite mild, I guess. Okay, that one's mild.
That's bringing quite a bit of muck in, yeah.
And there's this one, of course, as well. Actually, even though that one is quite cold.
That's probably quite cold under the surface, yes, it would be.
This one's snowy, of course. I quite like that one. That one's snowy, but of course it brings the Atlantic in.
That's right. That's a battle.
But actually, that's pretty good, because out of all these assembles, there's only one that's really shown the Atlantic. Well, actually, again, there's this one, of course, as well. This one's pretty awful. So
maybe a snow event a few hours before that, but yeah, that's the Atlantic coming back in.
So even though the trends are towards high pressure building in, the trends are also towards it pretty much staying there, and with quite a lot of opportunities for either a northerly or an easterly to come. Although it doesn't seem very likely that a northerly or easterly will come at any one given time, it seems that there's plenty of opportunities for it to happen, even though...
Yes, as long as that high pressure remains in situ, it can always be used as a vessel later down the line to do something a little bit more interesting. It's when it gets broken down and pushed back to the Azores, as it inevitably will do in the end, of course. We'll revert back to westerly ultimately, but as long as that high pressure can remain in situ over the country, it can be used as a vessel to do something interesting further down the line.
I'm at 264 now, right into the lowest, and it's still, the vast majority of the members are still high pressure dominated, with a few going quite cold. It seems that there's no trend at all to bring the Atlantic in. It's just going to stay cold and dry.
It could be a very dry February, actually, if this is right. Certainly the first half could be.
We'll have a couple, but this mean chart is very deceptive, because if I looked at this mean chart, I would think that this was like an Atlantic chart with obviously the low pressure to the north and high pressure to the south. If I looked at that, I would think, oh, okay, it's Atlantic dominated. But looking at the individual members, none of them, well, these two are, but none of the others really are at all.
That's right. I think the high pressure could take some shifting sitting over the country. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. It could be very, in total contrast, really, to what happened last year, which was so wet and stormy. But it could be a very dry, certainly first half to February.
Yeah, I mean, and also, of course, that. I mean, this is 384, and there's plenty of cold solutions here. It seems a lot. I think what you were saying earlier about there being another opportunity. I think you were basically spot on with that. It seems that from looking at these assembles, that there's plenty of opportunities for a cold incursion, even though it seems very unlikely that one will happen at any given time. But I'm quite optimistic, actually, looking at these assembles.
I don't think we're going to do it this week.
Yeah.
We are, of course, going to get that easterly Wednesday, Thursday. You can't sort of dismiss it. It could be quite significant for some eastern areas. We won't know really until around Tuesday how potent most snow showers are likely to be with that easterly. So we can't dismiss that. But for really locking into a Scandinavian high, or maybe a Greenland high even, it doesn't look like we're going to do that this week. But with the high pressure remaining in situ, there will be the potential later in the month, especially if the polar vortex eases off. It can't maintain its intensity that we're seeing later on this week indefinitely, so it should ease later in the month. At that point, we could get this high pressure going somewhere interesting again.
I think that's a very fair assessment. Do you want to have a quick look and see if anyone else has asked some questions? I'm sure lots of people have. See if there are any questions. I'm sure most of these will be for you. See if I can. Okay, so someone's asking what your next target for your website and channel is.
Well, in terms of the forecasting, the place we're going to be going in the near future is going to be to summer forecast. I've got one more spring forecast to do next month, And then after that, in March, I'll be on to the summer forecast. Now, we've had two really decent summers, although last summer went dodgy in August, of course, but had two pretty decent summers for 2013, 2014. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes for this summer, whether we can have a third decent summer or whether we'll go back to the traditional British summer, which of course isn't a very good one normally.
So, Zyclode is also asking what you think the summer's going to be like. I mean, you know more about long-range forecasting than me. I really don't know what the summer's going to be like. Do you have any idea?
As I say, I'll be going on to the summer forecast in March. That's when we'll be beginning those forecasts for March. Well, we haven't had a good August for a long while, have we? The last really hot August was 2003. And whilst we've had two good summers in 2013, 2014, we haven't had a really hot August for a long time. So we are due a hot August. Now, I wouldn't say that's going to happen this summer, but we are due a hot August. So let's see. Let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that this will be the year when August finally delivers something. By the way, going back, I was having a quick look at the comments on my website. Going back to the Central England temperature for 2010, 1990. Remember, I was a little bit unsure. The Central England temperature for 2010 was minus 0.7 degrees. This is from Sam Lawrence. Thanks very much, Sam, for sending this through. The December 2010 Central temperature was minus 0.7, and the record in 1890 minus 0.8. So we was about right, I think, with our guesses. I was perhaps a little bit out, but I wasn't far off.
Someone's asking about again, a few people asking about the snow on Tuesday. So what I'm going to do for the snow on Tuesday is, I think a few people might appreciate this. I've got a GFS chart of my own here, and what I've done is I've taken a load of different parameters. It works more like the sound links that we looked at earlier. So it incorporates things like dew points, a lot of things that Gav uses, partial thickness, that sort of thing, and it looks at the precipitation property across all the assembles, and then gives a probability of snow. So people are asking about Tuesday. So I've got a snow risk thing here for Tuesday. I'm just going to see if I can get this to work.
Your snow risk charts are great. I love your snow risk charts.
Oh, thank you. Shall we say 1 o'clock on Tuesday then? 1 o'clock in the morning. So that's 60 hours.
Yeah.
I don't have a user interface to this, so I've got to type it into a DOS window. So it's just going to be okay, and then I'll screen share it. Okay, so this is for 60 hours on. So this is 60 hours, which is 1 o'clock in the morning on midnight on Tuesday. So let's see if we can get the screen share to work. Okay, so this is midnight on Tuesday, snow risk probability. So what I've done is, of course, this is based on an average of all the different assembles. So it takes into account precipitation probability from the assembles, and I've used about 5 different parameters. Well, I've used the 5 different parameters. I can look at the code. It's based on things like partial thickness, the temperature in the bottom of the atmosphere, that sort of thing, to ascertain the rain and snow risk. But so this is midnight on Tuesday, and again, it's mostly northwest Scotland. So
West Scotland, yeah.
Unfortunately,
although they're going to central Scotland, but the east, south Scotland, not really in it.
Yeah. So I mean, 6 hours ahead, it has to render, so it takes a few seconds. I'm just going to look for some. I won't do many of these because it takes a few seconds to load. Okay, so this is for 6
Northern
hours.
Ireland is okay. Northern Ireland looks okay, except for the very far east, which isn't that good. But most of Northern Ireland in some snow there. Southwest Scotland as well.
Okay, and I'll finish off with 72. Sorry that it's taken a while to load. I have to. Okay, there we go. And you can see that the snow is moved south again.
It's pushing through the Irish Republic. Interestingly, they are doing okay, actually, I think, this winter. more around northern Scotland. Notice a few snow showers coming back around the east coast, heading in towards, not quite there, but towards East Anglia.
Yeah,
Going through there. And a little bit in the Irish Sea as well, around the Isle of Man.
that's unusual, isn't it? The Isle of Man.
It can be, yeah, because they tend to be sheltered from southwest Scotland and that sort of area. So yeah, that could be quite unusual. But there's that little system's breaking up, I suppose, as it's coming down the western side. So it's just producing a bit of a piece of snow there in the Irish Sea.
Okay, so I hope that answers a few of your questions about SnowIsCon.
So again, it's not going to be, except for Western Scotland, southwestern Scotland, Northern Ireland, Irish Republic, it's not going to be a widespread snowfall, and it's on a par. We're not looking at a snow event from this cold weather. It doesn't look like we're going to have a nationwide sort of,
but localized
north to south snow.
But localized heavy snow, I think is a possibility.
There are some places, as we have had the past week, going to do okay and get some good snow cover. And it looks like it's mainly in the north and west that's doing okay. But then again, we have to go beyond that, and the focus will shift to the east and the southeast Wednesday, Thursday, as those winds go into the northeast.
Okay, so someone else is asking, will the snow streamers affect Lincolnshire?
Let's see. It's impossible to say, isn't it? There'd be snow showers, I would think, for Lincolnshire, but it's impossible to say whether you would set up prolonged one after another a snow stream. So it's difficult to say. Generally, they tend to be more common down the Wash, around the Wash area, so that's close to Lincolnshire, and also across southeastern England, and can affect London. But of course, if you start talking about snow in London, everything will start to fall apart. So let's not say too much about that till we get closer to the time. But these snow streamers can get into London, so that will be one to watch later in the week. If London gets a couple of centimetres of snow, then the whole country is being brought to a standstill by snowing, according to the media. So
it's a Nathan Rowell stall.
Yeah, that's right. It's best not to say too much.
Chilly wind Mageddon. I saw that joke in the Daily Telegraph. Someone is asking you what the spring will be like.
Spring, the latest. I've done a couple of spring updates. We'll have one more to do in February, towards the end of February. The latest idea for spring doesn't look great. It looks like it's going to be relatively cool, really, and could be a little bit unsettled. We may even keep some colder conditions extending into March and April as well. Not continuously cold, like we had in 2013, but probably a little bit on and off, with the cold possibly lasting into March and April. So there may be the possibility of some late season frost, and possibly even a little bit of snow. You can get snow even into April. So yeah, probably not a great spring. But there's one more update on that still to do. So that is provisional. That's not the final word on the matter. There'll be a final update in February. I tend to find most people are more interested in the main two, which is winter and summer, and spring and autumn tends to get a little bit forgotten about, actually, a little bit. People want to know, I don't know what, people like the extremes, so it's either going to be the cold in winter or the heat in summer. So if I get a question about spring, actually, a lot of people seem to forget about the two that are in between the extreme ends of the climate in the UK.
Just briefly before I check and see if there's any more. I've loaded it up for 120 hours as well, when the easterly winds have started to come in, and I'm pretty disappointed. Do you think the GFS is underestimating this? Because this
probably there's a good chance that it'll be more interesting than that, I would think. Sometimes you can get a northeasterly wind that does surprisingly little. It can happen that you will think that is blowing, you know, you look at the chart and you'll think that's going to be blowing in quite a few snow showers, but it doesn't really do anything in the end. So that could be a possibility, but my hunch is that it'll be a little bit more wintry Wednesday, Thursday than that suggests.
Well, I'm hoping you.
Often with these sort of snow showers that form on the east coast, it can take, you need to wait till about 48 hours before for a good idea. That's a little bit better.
Well, so I loaded the wrong one. I just loaded today's by accident.
Ah, right.
That's actually tomorrow's. I wanted to load it towards the end of the week. Sorry about that. Yeah. Well, I think it's basically time for us to finish soon anyway, isn't it? We've been going for more than an hour.
We have gone on much longer than advertised, so I hope everybody has stuck with us. I hope they've enjoyed it. We've certainly, I was thinking about an hour, but it's been very engrossing to be joining you in this broadcast. I've really enjoyed it. I hope everybody else enjoyed it. We've gone on a long time, so hope I haven't been too dull.
I've enjoyed it. So, shall we finish off now then? I'm just checking to see if there's any last questions there.
Okay, check for final questions and then we'll...
Have you checked GavsWeatherVids and see if there's any
I'll
questions?
have one last look. Jamie B. Gavin Quantum, do you think tonight could bring decent snow to North London? My view on that is that there could be some snow for North London. It's inland, but I wouldn't necessarily be suggesting it'll be anything more than a dusting, but it's a possibility. And again, Jamie wants to know whether Thursday or Friday has a decent chance of snow for North London. Again, possible to say really. Snow showers could come in with that easterly northeasterly wind, but we'll need to wait until closer to the time frame. About around Tuesday we'll have a better idea of what that easterly is going to be dragging in terms of these showers from the North Sea, or whether indeed it drags anything in. It may not do.
Yeah, with this lake effect stuff, it's very difficult to tell. It's not just the temperature; it's also the wind shear, and that's one factor that's often discounted. I think North London will get some snow out of this event, especially if it's out a little bit out of the centre. I think central London really doesn't often get much snow at all, does it? But I think in rural parts away from the city centre, I think they could actually get maybe 2 to 5 centimetres. I think that would not be out of the question. But with these showery outbreaks, some places will get 5 centimetres, some places will get a dusting. So
that's right. It's as I said, I think right at the start of the broadcast.
I can run my snow accumulation map if you like. If people want me to, I've got something for snow accumulation. I'm not sure how accurate it is.
Okay. As I said from the outset, that it's as it has been through this cold spell, that some places it's very localised with the snow. Some places are going to get a covering of snow. Some places very close to where those areas got a covering of snow won't get hardly any snow at all. It's very, it's just not a classic countrywide snow event cold spell, sadly.
Yeah, this is sorry if this is my less updated version. I've got a better one on this, but anyway, there is some snow in North London on this, but I'll take it with a pinch of salt. I think this is I do think this has got the distribution right though, because you can see on the coasts there's nothing really that much on the coast, and I think that's about right. With Cumbria getting quite a lot.
This is snow accumulation. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, there's just snow accumulation by tomorrow. Sorry, the scale's pretty bad. I had it. I changed it, but this is silly.
So again, it's that idea that on the coast, no, inland, yes, but in localised places.
So maybe 2 centimetres in North London. I think that's reasonable. 2 or 3 centimetres in the rural parts. I think possibly.
Yes, I would suggest that is a possibility.
Right,
that has it a little bit more inland than I was expecting. But it does come in as far as the East Midlands a little bit, even, doesn't it? So
yeah, I think the WRF had it fairly far inland, but
I was thinking it's going to be a little bit to the east of the East Midlands, but my friend Kazim at Buxter, he's absolutely full up with snow. Of course, that's the highest, one of the highest places in the country, isn't it? So they get it a lot.
Oh, we're getting loads of
Sure they
questions
enjoy
now.
it.
We're getting loads of people are asking loads of questions just as we're about to finish as well.
Do a few more, then we can extend that a little bit longer.
Yeah. They want to know what we think of Piers Corbyn.
No comment. My diplomatic answer.
Okay, I think
It's best not to name any individual forecaster, I think, but yeah, so no comment.
Another person's asking, do we expect major cold in February? Have you had a look at the strat charts? Because I haven't done that in ages.
I had a browse through earlier today. They've backed off the. A few days ago, they were going for a big warming event, wasn't it, in the stratosphere for the first week of February. Backed off that a little bit. It's not like these sort of the kind of warmings we've been having through the winter, which is fairly minor warmings. But of course, one after another, it's a cumulative effect. I think a little bit this winter. We keep getting these sort of minor-ish warmings. Not sudden stratospheric ones, not sort of warming we had at the start of 2013. So we get these minor warmings. It's a cumulative effect, really, in the end, but it should sort of start to weaken the polar vortex. Having said that, as we've just seen, the PV is coming back big time this week, and that's the reason we don't pull off a major cold spell this week, although it is going to be a cold week. Don't get me wrong, it will be a cold week, but it's not going to be severely cold. In terms of February, probably, I think we'll have, as we said, the high pressure topples down over us at the end of the week, sits over us into the weekend, so it'll be cold, and that high pressure, once that high pressure is there, we may have another go sometime around middle month, maybe third week of the month. We may have another go at taking that high pressure somewhere interesting. So, so let's wait and see. I'm hoping that we will have another go at it in the second half of February.
Well, I mean, of course, that if that high pressure starts to migrate, it could even happen a bit earlier.
It could do, yeah.
I mean, if I had to plump out, I would plump for a below average February, maybe 1 or 2 degrees below average, which is still notable.
My winter forecast suggested February has the best chance of being colder than average of the 3 winter months, so I'm certainly hoping that's the case. I went for a very slightly milder average winter overall, getting progressively colder. February probably having the best chance of cold conditions. Lots of fighting going on up to February. So I'm pretty pleased how the winter forecast has gone, and hopefully, if it carries on okay, then yeah, we'll get back colder than average February, which will be our first colder than average month since August last year, and that was the only colder than average month throughout the whole of last year. Of course, last year was incredible for the warm months that we have throughout the year. Only, just typical, isn't it? The only one month throughout the whole of the year last year that was colder than average was August. You couldn't make it up, that could you? But there we go.
To be honest, I hate warm Augusts anyway. So I was actually.
Oh right, you're wrong there.
We had a couple of very low minima during August. I remember we broke a few records. There was some quite well sub-zero negatives in August. I think minus 3 even was recorded in a few spots.
What, last year?
In August, there was some record minima in August last year.
Yeah, we had the hurricane come through, remains of hurricane, didn't we? Which one was it? Was it Bertha?
Oh yes, it was.
Bertha, that came through and sort of shook everything up, didn't it? It had been a really warm summer up to then, and then it came through and shook everything up. And then in September we reverted back to the warmth, didn't we? Which was a bit of a nuisance because it was just ongoing high pressure throughout the whole of September. And when you're having to do a daily weather video, as I do, in September with high pressure just extending out about the whole month, it does get quite hard to come up with subjects to talk about every single day. So yeah, I could have done without that. But August was an interesting one last year, the way the pattern switched so quickly, and then got September and the pattern switched back into the warm. That was quite interesting how that happened.
Anyway, I think maybe we should finish now because...
Right then, it's been great fun talking with you. Hope everybody's enjoyed it. We've gone on a lot longer than I had predicted. I said we'd be about 30 minutes to an hour, something like that. But it's been great fun. Hopefully we can do it again soon.
Yep. So thanks everyone for joining. The YouTube video will be available to watch on my channel, or I assume GavsWeatherVids afterwards. And we'll try and get it uploaded to Gav's channel as well. Thanks everyone, and just to let people know that do subscribe to me, that the Supernatural Side Challenge show will not be happening tomorrow because I can't get anyone to host it. Thanks everyone for watching. Goodbye.